The story of Ashtyn Fellenz is not only tragic, it is infuriating. At its heart, this is not just about a young woman who bravely lived with a rare degenerative disorder and underwent groundbreaking gene therapy as a child. It is not simply a story about her selfless family's decision to donate her brain to science in the hope of helping others. No, this is ultimately a story about profound institutional failure, scientific negligence, and an appalling breach of trust that could reverberate through the scientific and medical communities for years. Ashtyn Fellenz suffered from Canavan disease, a rare and cruel genetic disorder that systematically destroys white matter in the brain, stripping away a child's ability to move, communicate, or live independently. Her parents, desperate for hope, enrolled her in an experimental gene therapy program at the age of 3. While not a cure, this treatment extended her life by more than a decade beyond what most Canavan patients are given, a remarkable, rare outcome. Her brain, after her death at the age of 24, represented a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to examine the long-term effects of that therapy. But that opportunity was literally thrown in the trash. This was not a simple clerical error. This was not a momentary lapse in communication. This was not a paperwork mix-up that could be rectified. The brain was disposed of, discarded by the very institution entrusted to protect and preserve it. A perfect scenario for scientific discovery was destroyed by months of bureaucratic fumbling, ignored emails, delayed responses, and, perhaps most damningly, a complete breakdown of communication and accountability. To put it plainly, this was a systemic failure with no excuse. Children's Hospital of Wisconsin had everything it needed to do the right thing. The consent was in place, if not the most recent document, then certainly one that had been reaffirmed by the family. The hospital was equipped and prepared. The researcher, Dr. Paolo Leone, one of the few experts in this obscure and devastating condition, was standing by, ready to receive and preserve the tissue. Yet weeks passed. Then months. Repeated emails from the research team went unanswered. Phone calls to the family came from grief counselors, not medical staff or pathology directors, hinting at a quiet attempt to manage public relations rather than rectify a scientific catastrophe. And when the family finally demanded answers, they were told that Ashtyn's brain, or at least part of it, had been mistakenly thrown out. This was not a skin biopsy, not a blood sample. This was the brain of a young woman whose life was devoted to medical advancement. It was a singular, irreplaceable biological artifact, one of the only specimens in the world that could demonstrate how the human brain responds over 2 decades to direct genetic modification. What was lost wasn't just tissue, it was knowledge, potentially transformative knowledge, that could have informed treatments not just for Canavan but for other neurodegenerative conditions and gene therapies. There's no scientific recovery from this. No do-over. No second chance. The potential to validate or improve upon gene therapies in a field that is still young and often speculative gone. As Dr. Leone put it, this would have just paved the way for any other application of gene therapy into the brain. Instead, the field is now left with one less map through the unknown. The hospital's apology is perfunctory, almost antiseptic. They express being profoundly sorry, acknowledged not following protocols, and assured the public that steps are being taken to prevent future errors. But this mistake points to something far more dangerous than a single lapse. It reveals deep structural weaknesses in how institutions handle human tissue donations, particularly those with extraordinary scientific value. If a major pediatric hospital, one trusted with some of the rarest cases and most vulnerable patients, can discard an organ with this much research potential, what faith can the public place in their systems of accountability? Moreover, there is a moral cost here. The Fellenz family made the ultimate sacrifice, the loss of their child, and sought to create meaning from that pain through scientific legacy. That legacy has been violated. The fact that the family now feels compelled to hire legal representation only underscores how little confidence they have in the hospital's internal review. And who could blame them? Months of silence followed by a catastrophic admission suggest that damage control, not transparency, was the initial priority. This is not just a sad story. It is a cautionary tale about the fallibility of our medical research infrastructure, the potential fragility of trust between families and institutions, and the staggering cost of administrative negligence. Human tissue donations are not just a privilege for science, they are sacred agreements. When those agreements are broken, it isn't just data that's lost. It's hope, it's progress, and it's the irreplaceable legacy of people like Ashtyn Fellenz.